Hi, everybody, and welcome to our webinar, our Destination Spotlight on Hollywood and LA. Tonight, I have the opportunity to introduce you to two panelists from LA. We have Tony Hoover, who is the founder of Redline Tours and Team LA. He was also a previous SITA board member and trustee. Tony has been in LA for a long time and has really done a lot for the group travel industry there. So welcome, Tony, and thank you for being with us.
Having me.
We also have Brian Schuler from the Grammy Museum. Brian has been with the Grammy Museum for about a year now, but previous to that, he was at the Staples Center working with all of the LA sports teams and all of their many award shows. So we really appreciate Brian being here with us today. Brian, welcome.
Howdy, guys. Thanks for having me.
So Los Angeles has been through a lot of changes in the past 20 or so years, and I know, Tony, you have been very active in a lot of that. So would you go ahead and get us started by telling us what's new and upcoming in Los Angeles?
Well, LA's really evolved, as you mentioned, a lot in the last 20 years. That really started with the Disney investment in the El Capitan Theater in Hollywood, which really spawned the revitalization of Hollywood again as a major destination. And since then, of course, the investment, AEG's investment in downtown Los Angeles, really helped usher in the revitalization of downtown and then Third Street Promenade in Santa Monica. So a lot has happened in the city in the last 20 years, especially, that has really made it the focus of attention of the travel industry. And there's a lot of excitement about the city going forward because obviously all this investment has led to us being chosen as the site for the Olympics in 2028. So there's a lot going on in the city, and there's a lot of excitement about the future of the city.
Oh, that's exciting, and I know we'll talk a little bit more about those Olympics pretty soon, but that's a preview of what's to come, which is really exciting. One of the things that we recommend that people our directors on the phone do is visit the Grammy Museum, and lucky for us, we have Brian here that can tell us all about it. Brian, so will you tell us what's cool, what's unique, and what's happening for our student groups to do at the Grammy Museum?
Of course. Thank you so much, Lauren. The Grammy Museum, so as Tony said, it's at LA Live, which is the entertainment district in LA, very comparable to Times Square in New York, but it's in LA. So the Grammy Museum, obviously you probably have heard of the awards, gives you a little bit of an idea of what the Grammy Museum is, but really we don't just focus on the Grammys. It really is about exploring music in all of its aspects. So it is a 4-story interactive museum with its main purpose really to help music, whether it be an inspiration, something to cultivate creativity. You know, we are in an interactive space. Kind of the main goal is to kind of remove that barrier that a lot of artists have with the fans and kind of to almost bring that human aspect. So whether you're going through the museum and you see Michael Jackson's Thriller jacket, or we even have something like the handwritten lyrics to This Land Is Your Land by Woody Guthrie. It really helps to kind of remove that, that awe and help inspire students really to not only just use music as a hobby, but really as a tool to explore other avenues. At the museum, we have everything from instruments that the students can play. We really like to focus on the creative process, because what would a music museum be if you couldn't make music? A lot of the times, we have bands coming to perform, but we like to also focus on how the evolution of sound has even changed. So going from the acoustic recording to now we have digital recording and kind of going through the different aspects. At the museum, we do offer performance opportunities, but what I'm really excited about is this is the beginning of the school year, which every year we host about 150 interactive education workshops. Well, you may ask, what in the world is an education workshop? Well, we focus on music, whether that be one of our most popular one, Music Production 101, where we actually show students the different careers in the music industry. Us being in LA Live and, my background at Staples Center, I've had the opportunity to meet with a multitude of different people within the music industry, whether that be the artists themselves. We've had the likes of Stevie Wonder, Clive Davis himself. That's what our theater is actually named after, where we have all of these workshops. He generously donated it and created this amazing interactive state-of-the-art 200-person theater. But we've also, being the Staples Center's down the street, that's where the actual Grammy production happens. So kind of learning about how that comes together, whether it be the lighting, the sound, the creativity of putting together some of those amazing performances. And some of our workshops focus on the glitz and glam, but there's also the history of music. So being able to explore different time periods and how music can actually transfer and almost teleport you in an aspect to that time period, whether it be music of the civil rights movement, music of war. Los Angeles is an incredible epicenter when it comes to Latin music. So whether it be mariachi or kind of learning about music and Hispanic culture, the museum is just an awesome place for you to bring your students in. Our whole aim is to leave them inspired to really not, like I said, not use music as a hobby, but kind of use it as a way to express themselves as individuals and kind of even learn about the history of themselves.
Wow, that was a lot of great information, and I'm definite that you hit a lot of points with their music directors on the phone, of things that their students would love to do. So thank you for being so thorough and taking the time to explain. And we love the Grammy Museum, and I think that's pretty obvious. But what are some other must-see museums? Tony, I'm gonna go to you on this one.
Yeah, so a lot of people don't realize that Los Angeles has the more museums than any city in the whole world. It's interesting, student groups coming here often overlook that, and I'm not quite sure why. But as you can see there on the screen, we have under development right now the Lucas Museum of Narrative Art, which is being developed by George Lucas himself. It's a $1 billion museum complex that's going to house his private collection, and of course, a lot of people are focusing on Star Wars, but it has a lot of other things in the collection as well. And in addition to the Lucas Museum, we have some of the most important art museums in the world here. We have the Los Angeles County Museum of Art, which is our major encyclopedic museum. We have the Getty Center, the Getty Villa. We have the Norton Simon Museum. We have we have so many art museums in the city. We have the Broad downtown, the Huntington Library and Art Collections. So there is no shortage of museums. We have science museums. We have the Natural History Museum in downtown. The Griffin Observatory has a major museum inside of it as well. It's something that should not be overlooked when visiting Los Angeles in your itinerary for sure. And many of those museums are free, by the way. Some of them are paid, some of them are free. The ones that even you have to pay for, they're quite affordable. I mean, they're under $20 for a visit, and it's a good value.
That's amazing. And groups on the phone definitely appreciate, either free or that low price point, because like we've talked about before, with bigger groups, it's hard to corral everybody and get everybody to go. So that's very important. So thank you for pointing that out. One of the questions that we received prior to this webinar is what additional performance opportunities are there within the LA area?
Well, yeah, I mean, would love to bring up, I'm lucky enough to have met Tony, but we have created a pretty awesome performance opportunity in downtown Los Angeles specifically. As you stated, my specialty and where I've been working is at Staples Center, LA Live, and the Grammy Museum. So, of course, there's all of these amazing artists that get to perform there, but we and Tony, we partnered together. For example, last year he had a large marching band coming in from the East Coast, and we actually gave them the opportunity to perform in the center of LA Live with the Staples Center really as the backdrop. We do have, as I mentioned, the Clive Davis Theater. It's a 200-person theater, so it's one of those more intimate performances where, we've had the likes of Ed Sheeran, Stevie Wonder, Lady Gaga actually perform there. So it's an iconic stage itself. But, sometimes bands are too large for that. So we have developed, whether it be at Staples Center when there's a Kings game, they can perform outside where there's a high traffic audience and there's that classic Staples Center backdrop. And I actually worked with Tony to put that together. And I know Tony can speak on a bunch of other performance opportunities that he specifically has developed in Los Angeles as well.
Yeah, so one of the obvious, for performing groups, one of the obvious things is they want to include a performance opportunity. And there are places in the city for performances small and large. And we've worked with a lot of the local suppliers to develop performing opportunities where they didn't exist before. So an example would be the farmers market. The farmers market in the mid-city area in Hollywood has a wonderful plaza in front of the clock tower where you can perform for a group under 50 people can perform there. And then also within the market itself, they have more intimate spaces where you can perform, like a small jazz band can perform. We also developed a performing opportunity with the Americana at Brand in Glendale, which is kind of like, looks like Main Street Disneyland. It's like an outdoor shopping venue with a park in the middle. And we've had student groups perform there in the park to very large audiences, by the way. It's a very popular destination locally. So they've always had a pretty sizable audience at that particular destination. But we had one situation where we had a marching band that wanted to perform, and they had over 200 people in the band. And where can you find performances for a group that size? So that's, Brian was just mentioning, that's how we partnered with them on developing the performing opportunity at LA Live. So there's a lot of different places that you can perform in Los Angeles. It's just basically, we can work with you on identifying exactly what the director is looking for and find a supplier that is able to handle the performance at their venue.
Great. Thank you. And I know that you spoke a little bit about LA Live, but here's an action shot of the area. And Brian, can you kind of describe what we're seeing there? I know we have Microsoft Square there in the background.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is almost the view of is if you were standing on the balcony of Staples Center. So this overlooks the entire plaza. Actually, that's typically where a lot of the red carpets are held. So whether it be the Grammy Awards, which are at the Staples Center, the Primetime Emmys happen at the Microsoft Theater, the ESPY Awards, the American Music Awards. So anytime you've seen a red carpet, this is actually the area that you see. They just usually transform it, which is amazing because imagine, having your marching band set up in this plaza with the backdrop of either this or the Staples Center as the backdrop, as Tony had the brilliant idea of kind of developing that back in 2017. And then this is a shot of the Staples Center. So we've had groups also perform on game day. So whether it be the LA Kings or the Lakers or the Clippers, Staples Center holds about 20,000 people. So it's always a great opportunity to kind of get that exposure for the students and give them that opportunity to perform in front of a live crowd.
I love that. And Tony, I'm going to go to you on this next one because LA is a sports town. Can you tell us more?
Yeah, so again, a lot of visitors don't realize or even think of Los Angeles as a sports city, but it's really hard to believe as a local. We've held the Olympics here twice now, 1932 and 1984, and we're about to host it. We're one of I think the first city ever to host it 3 times in 2028. And we have some of the best sports. Obviously, if the Olympics are choosing LA, we have the best sports facilities in the world. So we have, in terms of teams playing here, we have the Lakers and the Clippers and the Sparks, the basketball teams here. We have the Dodgers and the Angels baseball team. We have 2 football teams. We have 2 major soccer teams. And the facilities they perform in are world class. So including a sports match in one of your itineraries I would think would be one of the things you would want to try to include, just because we are definitely a sports city.
And the Olympic site is historic. I mean, for to come and forever to come. So I definitely think that's a must see for our groups as well. Also, a must do for our groups, which is my favorite subject, is food. We know that LA has tons and tons of delicious culinary treats, and I'm just going to stop talking here and let you guys take this one away.
Um, well, there's a long story about LA's food history, but I'm gonna start with calling out a person by the name of Jonathan Gold. So Jonathan Gold is the food reviewer, or was the food reviewer. He just passed away this last year, for the LA Times, and he really changed the food landscape, not just in Los Angeles, but all over the world. Until Jonathan Gold appeared on the scene, food reviewers around the world focused on kind of more French style cuisines and more of the upper end food. Jonathan Gold decided to go the other direction and not focus on the high end restaurants that everyone else was focusing on, but more of the ma and pa places you find in the corners of your city. And he did that here in Los Angeles. And a lot of people don't realize LA is the most culturally diverse city in the United States. And he started to go into the little neighborhoods like Little Ethiopia. Who knew that LA has a Little Ethiopia? Chinatown, Little Tokyo, Koreatown, Filipino Town. And he would go to these neighborhoods and find these little restaurants, and he would review them, and they would all of a sudden become sensations, not just locally, but of course, around the world. He also spawned, by the way, the Food Network craze. All of these food programs you're seeing now on TV were really started by Jonathan Gold's initial work. He's actually the first food reviewer to win a Pulitzer Prize, by the way. It's never happened before in Pulitzer history. So that has really, when you come to LA, you really should focus on not just the typical food places you would go to on an itinerary, but really experience the city through its food, because in experience the city through its food, you're going to experience the city's culture and diversity. It really is a very important part of organizing an itinerary. I'll give you one example. We have a group we did a site visit for recently, and there is a mariachi restaurant in East LA that seats 1,000 people. So if you have a marching band that's coming to visit the city, and you need a venue that can seat 600 or 800 people in your marching band, there you have it. It's in East LA. And not only do you get to have some great Mexican food, but you also get to have the entertainment of two major mariachi bands while you're actually sitting and having your meal. And that's a unique LA experience. So there's a lot of options that you should explore when you do your itinerary. And the one thing I should also mention is, when you have an itinerary of things to do, the kids and everyone is kind of going out, and then the meal at the end of the day, the dinner, is where you come together. So you should really put a lot of focus on your meal, on your dinner especially, because that is the time where everyone comes together and they talk about what they do during the course of the day. And having a meal that not only is a great meal, but also reflects the nature of the city that, or the destination that you're in, is really, really important in my mind.
I couldn't agree more, Tony. And I think that was so well said. And I appreciate the history on Jonathan Gold. As a Food Network lovey, I appreciate his work for sure, and his
By the
influence.
way, there's a great documentary if you want to take a look, and it really will help people understand what I mentioned, called City of Gold. You can Google it, and I think it might be on Netflix. I'm not sure, but it's called City of Gold, and it's a story of Jonathan Gold. And if you watch that, it'll really inspire you to do what I just told you to do, and that is really see the city through its food.
Ah, thank you. Well, seeing the city for its food, we need to get around, and I think that it's probably a myth that LA is a hard city to navigate via public transportation, and I think you two are here to tell us that's not true. So what can you say about getting around?
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, just coming from experience, so I've been in Los Angeles for 10 years now, and I've been using public transportation for about 8 of those. I mean, I took the train in this morning to get to LA Live. So I myself live in Pasadena. It's a quick 5-minute walk, and then you just hop on the Gold Line. You even get a chance to visit the iconic Los Angeles Union Station, and then from there, that's the kind of the central hub of Los Angeles, where you can get really to anywhere, whether that be downtown Los Angeles or Long Beach, Santa Monica Pier. You can even take it to Anaheim and Disneyland or Hollywood. A lot of the times, you think that it's going to take longer, but out of experience, getting around via bus in Los Angeles traffic can kind of cog you up to anywhere from an hour to 2 hours, where you can actually even use the train as a cultural experience itself, by a way to actually see the city and experience it. And it even sometimes proves to be more cost effective. And I'll kind of defer to Tony, who specializes in getting transportation for large groups.
Yeah, so it is an absolute myth that LA is not transit friendly. We actually have the second largest transit system of any city in the United States, next to New York. You can get pretty much anywhere you need to go in Los Angeles using our transit system. And it is very transit friendly for small groups as well as large groups. In fact, the largest group I've actually seen use the transit system here is about 200. A marching band. You can get to Santa Monica, Universal Studios, you can get to Hollywood, downtown. You can get to just about anywhere that you need to on the transit system. And it's constantly growing, they're constantly building on it, so it's going into more and more places. And it's fairly inexpensive. Now, I don't want to knock using buses, you're going to need to use them. You're going to use them for your airport transfers, of course, obviously, and to go some places you're going to need them. But using the train also helps you to connect better with the city. When you take the train, you're actually experiencing the city itself and the people that live here. And I should also mention, in downtown we have Union Station, which is one of the great train stations in the United States. It's our Grand Central Terminal. It's a beautiful Art Deco train station. And we have actually had groups that have gone to Disneyland from downtown, staying at a downtown hotel, and it only takes 30 minutes on the train to get there. Using a bus, it takes you about an hour and a half. So in addition to the expedited time in getting to Anaheim on the train, you get to experience that wonderful train station as a part of your experience. So there are a lot of benefits to using public transit here in Los Angeles.
Thank you for that. That is definitely enlightening, and I hope breaks the myth. So you guys have covered so much, and this has been so informative. What are some must-do things for our groups on the phone? What about both of you pick 2? I know that's hard, but we'll start with you, Brian. Pick 2 must-do things.
Of course. So, well, I mean, obviously I've got to mention the Grammy Museum. Not only one, because I feel like it's an amazing opportunity. The value there is undeniable, but just where it's located. It's located in downtown Los Angeles. LA Live, like I had mentioned before, the Staples Center, the Microsoft Theater, there are countless award shows, family shows, and of course the museum itself is there. But not to mention, there are plenty of places within walking distance of LA Live that you can experience, whether that be Clifton's Cafeteria, which is the oldest cafeteria. I think it was in the 1930s, and it just went through this amazing renovation. It's this very similar to the museum, which is 4 stories. It's this 4-story like cafeteria food hall. But obviously, coming to LA Live, so a lot of folks come to downtown Hollywood for the Walk of Fame. Well, not many people know at LA Live there's the Grammy Walk of Fame, so you can literally see every single person that has won the top 4 Grammy Awards, whether that be Record of the Year, Song of the Year, dating back to 1958 when the inception of the awards happened, all the way to 2018 where Bruno Mars just kind of swept up everything. So definitely LA Live. I'll let Tony even speak about how LA Live is essentially the Times Square of LA because it's a signage district. And I'll kind of defer that over to Tony.
Yeah, so I have a laundry list of must-see places, but I'll narrow it down to two. So at the top of my list is Grand Central Market. Grand Central Market just celebrated its 100th birthday this last year. It's one of the oldest food halls in North America. And it's a great place to go because you get a taste of LA when you go to the market. It represents a lot of the different cultures that make up the city, not all of them, but a lot of them. So experiencing the market as a historic venue is on one level, and then also kind of the taste of the city at the market. And that's in downtown Los Angeles. And downtown Los Angeles overall, of course, is a venue. And Brian was just mentioning about LA Live as a signage district. It's very similar to New York's Times Square, which is the other signage district on the East Coast. Where we have these giant jumbotrons that are being put on all the new buildings going up. So it'll look when it's completed, LA Live and that district is going to look very much like Times Square in New York City. I should also mention to you. One of the other must-do things is our walking tours. Red Line Tours we're world renowned for our walking tours. And when people come to the city, they do bus tours. They do the macro view of the city. You see the city in kind of a sweeping way on the bus. But a part of the experience of visiting Los Angeles should also be seeing it at a micro level, to actually go into one of the neighborhoods like downtown and do one of our walking tours to really experience the city up close and personal. And that's something that people forget to do when they come here. So that's what we do with the Red Line Tours is we actually tell you the story of the neighborhoods that you're visiting on kind of a more micro and intimate level. And that's what we do very well. We take you into places. By the way, one thing, on a bus, you can't go into things necessarily, but on a walking tour, we can take you into places that you can't normally see from the vantage point of a bus. So being able to go inside some of these places like Grand Central Market as an example, changes your overall perspective of the city.
That's great advice. That really is, and truly for any city, but ideally for LA, I mean, to walk and to get up close and personal, I think is a great takeaway for our groups on the phone. So you guys have given so much information. You are both a wealth of knowledge, and I am very appreciative for your time tonight and for you answering some of the questions that we got from our directors. I'm sure there are other questions that we don't actually have the time to cover this evening. So for those of you on the phone, if you have anything and you want to shoot in an email or write in your chat box, please go ahead and do that. And I promise that I will, if I don't know the answers myself, we will get Brian and Tony involved to help answer any questions that you may have about visiting Hollywood and LA this spring. So thanks again. Thank you guys for being an awesome panelists. I really appreciate it. And I hope everybody on the phone has a great night.
Thank you, Lauren.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Visit Los Angeles.
Woo. Yes, but that would be your final takeaway, would be to visit Los Angeles.